Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on March 10th, 2022 at approximately 10:48 a.m. PST. Well, as you can tell by the look of my hair, I'm a little bit of a mess today, but hey, what the heck. This is a live recording after all. Meaning, when I go back, I just double check and make sure I got the date right and then post it as is. Today's not one of my better looking days. I don't usually look in the mirror. There's a reason for that. In any event, as I mentioned, okay, well, let's start with the obvious issue. I returned to this world for this lifetime for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for most people. Now, I mean, we have gone through a staggering amount of complications over the last couple of years. Okay, and then just as we're getting tied off, starting to loosen things up around COVID, some genius decides that another war is a really good idea. My personal opinion, war has never brought peace. It has brought quiet on it for on a number of occasions, but never brings peace. Okay, let's face it. It holds up real productive healing. It holds up inventions. It holds up prosperity. You know, it used to be if you went to war, first and foremost, leaders would jump in. You know, they would be right at the front of the battle lines, which is the one thing I will say in this particular case. And assuming that the reports are to be believed, then the president of the Ukraine has turned down the option of leaving the Ukraine to stay and fight on the front lines with the people of the Ukraine. Okay, now that's the way it was way back in the Middle Ages. If a king said, "We're going to war," he was at the front of the war. Okay, he didn't hide behind a desk. Now, you go down the road further and we get into recent history. Okay, and war used to have the effect of it was technically good for the economy because it put everybody to work. If you didn't have a job, you were working. Whether you wanted to or not was irrelevant. You were working. Okay, and if you're working and getting paid, no matter how little you're getting paid, it still helps the economy. Now, the funny part about all of that is people that store a whole stockpile of money, like for, several $1 million, you don't require several $1 million to live. Okay, you really don't. Take a look at your expenses. That's what you require. Now, certainly, I do agree. Put 6 months aside. Absolutely. Even if you want to get carried away, put a year aside. Okay, if you're young, 6 months is more than enough. If you're my age, if you can get 10 years aside, you're doing good. I mean, I'm 58. Okay, but war itself does not bring peace. And the way to change that is right here. Take a look in your heart and see if you're content with the way your life is going. Now, for me, it's very simple. My weight is coming down. My stress level has really come down. Energy level is climbing. Okay, and this neat little project that I started years ago is coming into balance. And I'm not going to spend much time on this today. This is just one neat little piece. Okay, this little book, obviously in print. Okay, available on Author House, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Indigo, fair number of places. But the important factor for me at this point is I just got an email back from an Italian publisher. They've got my book. They're now reading through it. Okay, they've got the end of an Epoch, which is this one that just came out. Okay, this book that just came out is now being looked at in Italian by an Italian publisher to look to translate it. And I will keep you posted on that. So, I mean, everything is slowly falling into place here. Okay, it's taken a lot of work, and if you're like me, professional procrastinator and all, it does take a lot of work to change your life around, to get things moving in the right order. But the trick is to get it straight in your head that it is possible. If you don't know how to do it, absolutely, I can tell you how to get organized. The fact I'm a procrastinator is irrelevant. Well, actually, it's very relevant. Okay, but where all of this starts is you take a look at your primary work area, primary work and primary living area, and take a look and make certain that it's organized, because the more organized your work area, especially where you work on finances, the more organized it is, the easier it's going to be to keep on top of things. So, can I point you in the right direction there? Certainly. If you don't know how to do it, there are very easy ways. One of the easiest tricks that I ran across was you take a sheet of paper and you literally list on it. Take three things. All it is three to start with. One will work, but three gives you a better lead time. Pick three things that you're not content with in your life right now. Okay. And start altering them. Make sure those chores, the breakdown is in 15 minutes to half-hour chores, if at all possible. Obviously, building a house, it's going to be longer periods. Okay, because you don't want to have a job finished. Oh, I'm going to nail this board up. Then I'm going to nail that board up. Doesn't work well. Okay, you'll spend more time writing notes for yourself than you will doing the job. But when you get it running smoothly, you write down the first three. When you get the first one done, check it off and write down a third one below it. Don't forget, on that list, remember to take time out to do things like have dinner or breakfast is much more important in my eyes. Now, the nice part about it is by doing that, you can get your life running smoothly, and that will drop your stress level. Don't take my word for it. Straighten the place out first and see what happens. A little understood trick that it just dawned on me this morning. I was talking to somebody this morning, and we were talking about dropping weight. Okay, and there's a real easy trick to it, aside from the obvious of don't eat so much. Quite frankly, not eating much doesn't necessarily work as well as you might think. It depends on what you're eating. Now, I'm no dietitian, but I was really happy when I went and talked to one. And because I don't drink coffee that's really heavy on the coffee side, I got told carry on drinking as much as you want because, well, frankly, if you think about it, most people with a 12-cup pot will put in 3 or 4 tablespoons, okay, of coffee. Now, I personally only put in 1. I don't like the taste of caffeine. I don't like the taste of chlorine. So I just flavor it a little and boil water. Net result, coffee. But according to my nutritionist, that just means I'm getting enough water. Okay, but when you get that moving in the right direction, okay, this is a trick. Boy, that went off track. I was talking to somebody about the idea of dropping your weight. And intriguingly enough, most people that are overweight have a problem. And I'm not talking about the weight. They run into a problem with feeling better because most of the time you're wearing very loose clothing, very easy, very comfortable clothing. Okay, but I will tell you, even if you're not striving to lose weight, if you're looking to pick up a little extra energy, getting dressed, when you get up in the morning, get dressed as though you're leaving the house, even if you're working in your own office. Okay, get up, get dressed in decent clothing. Okay, that change in the clothing will actually bolster your energy levels and make you feel better. Not only that, but it has a tendency of, if you're only a little overweight, right, and you'll get into your clothes and go, that's a little too tight. Okay, you got 2 choices there. Get bigger clothes, which seems to be the way a lot of people go, or figure out how to drop the weight. AKA change your diet, change your exercise levels. Okay, I've got to go. I was supposed to go and pick up something this morning. Now, quite often, I do my best to go for a walk, at least 1 kilometer a day, like a half mile. Bear in mind, I'm on a cane. Okay, now that being said, I got way too many things on the go. Unknown caller. And we're going to let that ring through because I don't want to talk to it. Boy, I think that must be blocked or something. But anyway, that's okay. This is a live recording, like I said. Meaning, interruptions like that, I'm not going back to eliminate. But the important factor, from my standpoint, you put on clothes that look good. That will help you feel better about you. It will also encourage the weight drop. And you don't have to understand it. Okay, you really don't. But you've got one of two choices if your clothes are getting a little tight. Either find a way to drop the weight, or get bigger clothes. Now, getting bigger clothes, by the way, has resulted in a massive problem of excess weight in a lot of people. Okay. I didn't check my weight this week. I'll do it next week. Of course, I'm not in a hurry to check my weight because I know it's dropping. Okay, now last week it only dropped by, 0.2 pounds, I think? Okay, and which is not great, but it's still a drop. Okay. And by dropping the weight, changing the way you look. Okay. I looked at a picture of myself from 9 years ago, I think it was. And I literally had hair all the way down to my elbows. Okay. So it's come up a fair chunk. Hasn't gotten any darker, but hey, what the heck. On the other hand, I'm not about to go and diet. But take a look at yourself and ask yourself, are you content with the way you are? If the answer is yes, then that's absolutely fantastic. I do not like that. By the way, breathing coffee is a bad idea. Okay, I mean, breathing some of the air out there is much better, but you pay attention when you look at the way you look, the way your house is laid out. Are you content with the layout? Now, this set of books here, the thing right here, every one of these, except the blue one, except for this blue one, I've written. Okay, and again, this is one of those projects that I'm very content with. Okay, because from my standpoint, this is a goal that I decided I was going to push. Now, I've got an errand to run when I get done this. I've got to go for a walk to pick up, and literally I'm going to pick up recycling bags for pop bottles. Yes, I am not a health nut. I like pop. Okay, some people call it pop, some people call it soda. So it turns out I just heard of one group of people that tend to call it sody. It's all the same thing. Okay, but that said, I'm a firm believer that recycling what you can is a good idea. And again, this just makes it, for me, it helps me feel better to know that I'm taking stuff that I no longer require and turning it over to other people. Okay, I'm getting rid of the stuff. And because of that, okay, other people are benefiting from it. If I've got no use for it, why hang on to it? Now, one gauge for when you're getting rid of the stuff that you don't require. Take a look at it. If you've got boxes of stuff that you haven't been into for years, okay, and the basic rule is if you haven't been into it for a year, you probably don't require it anymore. Now, the exception to that would be, in my opinion, decorations and actual keepsakes. For instance, my annuals from my school. Okay, I don't go into them very often. I talk to some of the people I graduated with, but not many. Okay, most of the people I know now are met in the last little while, especially in the last couple of years. Now, from my standpoint, it's a real simple issue, and I'm just going to check something here. Hopefully I can get to the right spot easily. I go to here, and yes, we are at this point, the subscription level to my channel, which I'm really content with, is now over the 200 mark. Okay, and now I'm starting to get into a couple of other processes as well. Like, for instance, I'm now doing an extra video on the production, on the actual writing and the background behind the Yldrbac Chronicles. Now, those are very short. I'm keeping those 10, 15 minutes long, much like with the races of the world. Those are usually pretty short as well. Okay. And now I've just started really keeping track and keeping people up to speed because Inner Voice Enterprises, I developed a program years ago. Okay, I developed a layout years ago to build an actual healing center. Now I've got jack for money. Okay, I really don't have a lot. I've got a great, in my opinion, a great idea whereby this healing center will provide education, health, health, nutrition, that sort of thing, businesses of various forms. Okay, but the real, and of course, the healing side of it, which will include the metaphysical sides. Okay, as well as off-world aliens and that sort of thing. I'll combine the whole thing under one roof. But here's the kicker. I'm not doing a nonprofit. This will not be a corporation. Okay, it just won't. Okay, I'm just laying the groundwork for it now. To really push for it now. Because it's going to take a lot of effort, but here's the real kicker to it, the big difference. The people that work with this particular healing center will have a couple of things going. And some people say, well, why would you tell people? What if somebody takes your idea? Let's say there's 1,500 healing centers that actually heal people. The kicker with what I'm developing is that, yes, I will make money. I absolutely am doing this for profit. Well, I'm doing it to help people, but profit will be a direct side effect. But the important factor is that the people that open shops or open stores and outlets and what have you in the complex, on top of them making money from their own work, they will also be sharing in the net profits of the complex, as will the employees. Okay, the employees of various different places. And the real kicker is that I figured out a way to track word of mouth advertising, which means that the customers of this healing center, even though they're putting X dollars on, and they're spending X dollars on whatever they're dealing with, they will be getting a check back, or a check back, and it won't be much. There's no question. I'm not giving everything away. Okay, it still applies to the same rule that I've already talked about. When you're looking at running your own business, running your own home, deal with your costs first. Profit sharing is done on a net profit. Okay. Now, I could not believe it. I was talking to somebody one day, and I told them flat out, I do not donate to registered charities. The one exception that somebody brought to my attention the other day is I will be contributing to the local food bank. But that's a case of taking the food down and going, here you go. It's not giving money to anybody. Even if, as rumor has it, some of the people working there take some of the food home, it's still going to somebody that needs it. I do lobby shopping myself. People in my apartment complex have been known to take food out of their own homes that they don't like. And they don't put it up for sale. They set it down. Okay, canned goods, seal boxes, that sort of thing. I would lobby shop quite readily. Lord knows it saves me probably 50, 60 bucks a month. Or it has been, especially in around Christmas time. It's saved me a small fortune. But this healing center I am now in the process of putting together, as well as two major books. Now, the Yldrbac Chronicles are my, if you will, they're the big project right now where it comes to writing. But I am also writing a book on how to make money actually work if you don't have $50,000. Like, there's lots of people out there that'll tell you, if you've got $30,000, $40,000, here's a way to make money. Well, that's great, but most of us don't have $30,000 or $40,000 to work. Okay, so from my standpoint, I take a look at it and go, okay, I can show you how to take $5 and make it start to work. And that is where the backbone of this one book is. I've already got the one booklet written. I've got to get into a better format. Okay, but I've just got to find the information on it again, the soft copy information. but I'm writing one that will actually detail how you can save money and what saving money really amounts to. Not to mention why you won't do it, which was the real kicker to this one. This funny little book here. Where'd it go? That one. In this one, okay, believe in yourself and follow your dreams. In that, I detail the simplest tools I personally work with, okay, to get my life running in the right order. Okay, and that's why I bill myself as a spiritual guide. Because the tools that I offer are exactly the same ones I personally use. The philosophies of life I talk about are the ones that I personally live by. This doesn't make them the best. It doesn't make them the only ones out there. Okay, but it does make them the ones that I'm personally using. And this is why I can quite readily go, this is the way I see the world. I don't make excuses for it. Okay, it's the way I am. It's the way I've always been, it turns out. Apparently, when I was a kid, I tried isolating myself really heavily anyway, even before I got near my adult years. Now I've just become a lot more reclusive, that's all. Okay, but at the same time, I'm also quite willing to admit it. There was a time where I looked at that and went, I keep people away from me because I don't like the way they are. I don't like them. And that's not entirely correct. What I really had the problem with, as it turns out, is I didn't know how to cope with them. I didn't understand people well enough for me to, and I didn't understand me well enough to look at it and go, I've got to take a different look. I've got to look at what part is my responsibility. Now, when I'm talking to adults, seniors, kids, people of a different nationality, it doesn't matter. I speak the same way. Okay. I will, when I start talking to somebody, even to a child, about something I'm working on or about a concept that applies to them. Okay. I will phrase it in what I consider proper language to start with. In one extreme case, I was listening to a program on the internet on alien races and UFOs. And very long story short, somebody had asked why people saw the little ships and not the big ones, right? And my immediate reaction was, well, it's actually rather simple once you understand the Oslo densification and the tri-transtemporal equipolarity. Though you got to take the fractal inversion into consideration first. Now, the reality is, I am not a scientist. I'm not a mathematician. I know how it works. But it took me almost 2 hours to explain to a woman that had both a master's in rocketry and astrophysics. It took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to explain it to them in terms that made sense, without the scientific knowledge to back it up. Okay, I start the same way dealing with children. I will talk to them in what I consider normal terms. If they don't understand it, then I will rephrase it in simpler terms. But I'm not about to sit here and insult people by starting to talk in monosyllabics. Hate that. Gnats are a real annoyance on occasion. Anyway, this is a live recording, so you get what you get. One of the things that I have to deal with today, once I get back from making this one little errand, is lay out a schedule of topics to deal with. And to that end, if there is a topic in any field that you would like to hear about, or that you've got questions about, drop me a line in the comments below. If you've got a more complicated one, or you don't desire people to know who's asking, then drop me a line at one of the contact points below this video, and send it to me. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. Okay, as you can well imagine, I'm writing 32 or maybe 33 books at the same time right now. I've got my hobby that I deal with, painting. I've got to organize the house. There's a whole list of things. And so it's not like I have, like I'm doing nothing. Although sometimes I personally feel like it. But absolutely, drop your comments in the comments below. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Apparently, that has something to do with the algorithm that YouTube uses. Okay. Also, subscribe to the channel because, quite frankly, there's a lot of information coming up. I'm very content with the fact that I've had so much support over the past year. And granted, I don't have a lot of, I've got 200 followers. 200, actually 202 subscribers right now. Which, for me, is quite an amazing feat in and of itself. Okay. The idea here is to let people know. Look, we've got a lot of people out there. Right now, we've got a war going on. There are first responders, and the funny part about it is most people look at first responders and go, that's your firemen, your ambulance, your police. Those are the first responders. But I will tell you, there's a massively huge amount of first responders, massive complicated conglomeration of them that people forget about. Parents, siblings, you're all first responders. Realistically, before the ambulance arrives, who deals with the wounded? Strangers half the time. Okay, so this really is a time to finally look up, lift your head up off the ground, quit looking at the ground, unless you're looking for bugs. Stop looking at your feet. Take your text machines, put them aside, and notice the people around you. Okay, back in '73, I forget who it was. I think it was the Carpenters, but I might be wrong. There was a song that was written called Up, Up with People. If you haven't heard it before, listen to it. Okay, it says a staggering amount about the way this world has to get back to in order to get back on track. Now, I keep these to a half hour, so with that in mind, I'm going to bring this to a close, and I will be back again tomorrow sometime. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.